Good afternoon, everybody. Well, here it is. A sparkling Sydney Sunday greets us for 2024 preliminary final day in the NPL New South Wales men's. 2 games to come your way on the Football New South Wales YouTube page this afternoon. The first from the Ilinden Sports Centre here with Premiers Rockdale Ilinden, a win away from their second grand final in 5 years against the side that vanquished them on the big day in 2020, Sydney United 58. Alex Molchanoff, delighted to be joining you. You can hear it's windy, it's wild. It's going to be a fantastic afternoon of football. Let's bring you the team news because there's some big news coming out of the Rockdale Ilinden side that was handed in 10 or 15 minutes ago. Alec Urashevsky, the league's top scorer for 2 consecutive seasons, only fit enough for the bench after picking up a hamstring strain against Central Coast Mariners on the final day of the regular season. So in comes number 14, Braden Sorge, wearing the captain's armband in his place as well today. He starts at right back, alongside number 2, Daniel Collins, number 3, the returning Lockie Griffiths, and number 5, Giorgio Speranza, in front of the goalkeeper, number 1, Nick Soros. A midfield 3 of number 6, Isaac Danzo, number 22, Blake Risciuto, who shifts forward, and number 10, Brendan Chalakian. The front 3, number 11, Lachlan Constable on the right, number 77, Sovka Taoka on the left, and number 15, Yinka Mola, filling the big boots of Rockdale's talisman. For Sydney United 58, a quick backup after beating Apia Leichhardt on Wednesday night at Lambert Park to make their way here to this grand final qualifier. They make just the one change. Number 1, Oliver Kalatz is in goal. He hasn't missed a minute of league football this season. Number 3, Bailey Rule at right back. Number 21, Dejan Bakadanakoski in the middle with number 4, Adrian Vlastelica, their captain, and number 11, Matt Hatch. A midfield 3, which is unchanged. Number 5, Anthony Tomalic. Number 15, Tarek Maya. And number 19, Aiden Milicevic. The lone change is number 22, Stefan de Robillard, returning on the right flank. Number 10, Carlos de Oliveira, was one of the heroes on Wednesday night, starting on the left. Number 9, Patrick Anselmi, is always good for a goal for Sydney United in these big games. An unseasonably hot day in the south of Sydney. We're expecting the action to be just as fiery on the pitch. Rockdale did the double over Sydney United in the regular season. Another win here will see them into Saturday's grand final at Combank Stadium. But Sydney United have been this competition's team for the big occasion over the past few seasons. Australia Cup finalists in 2022, Waratah Cup winners in 2023. The question will be how well they're able to back up today in what is pretty sweltering heat that has greeted us this afternoon. Fasten your seatbelts, 90 minutes plus extra time and penalties if we need them, to decide who is the first team into 2024's NPL New South Wales Grand Final. Second preliminary final following us today. 5 o'clock kickoff over at Marconi Stadium between the Stallions and Blacktown City, who needed extra time to get over St George City on Wednesday in that game at Landon Stadium. And just reiterating that big news, Rockdale without their leader and leading scorer, talisman. All the superlatives have been used to describe Alec Urashevsky over not just the last season, but the last few. He's got a piece of silverware to show for it this season, the form of the 2024 Premiership. He'd love his team to give him a chance to be fit again for the grand final in a week. Expect to only see him used by Paul D, who's returned to the touchline after a stint away over the past couple of months. It's a timely return with his team into their biggest match of the season so far. That ball in towards Yinka Mola. Blake Risciuto has been good for a goal in a big moment for Rockdale this season. Giorgio Speranza forward. And just evading Brendan Chalakian, who not quite timed his run as he would have liked. Healthy crowd here at the Ilinden Sports Centre this afternoon. We expected nothing less. Healthy contingent of Sydney United fans have made the trip as they did on Wednesday night. Created a raucous atmosphere at Lambert Park. It's a little bit more subdued in the early stages here this afternoon, but that will quickly change as players give them something to cheer about. That is a wonderful save from Oliver Kalatz. First ball played in was slightly behind Chalakian. That one he got his head to. And Sydney United's goalkeeper, who's gone from strength to strength over the course of the season, comes up with another big save. inside the opening couple of minutes, and it has been all Rockdale on fresher legs. Their last game was the final one of the regular season against the Central Coast Mariners here on Sunday, a 4-1 win. Mariners pushed them a little bit closer than might have been expected. Took a couple of late goals to really put the cherry on top of the performance that day. The opening 2 goals scored by the man in absentia today, Alek Urashevsky, before Ovens got his name on the score sheet for the first time in men's league football. And Hunter Elliott, who has been such an astute pickup, again available off the bench today if Paul D and Nick Stavroulakis require him. Carlos de Oliveira has been the heart and soul of this Sydney United team, really. It's quite remarkable considering it's his first season with the club after making the move from Blacktown City, where he played the majority of his junior football. He's gone to another level higher up the pitch. Bit of pressure on Dejan Bakadanakoski, 2 of the recent A-League Academy graduates in St. Mola and Bakadanakoski going head-to-head there. Prosciutto back in a midfield role today, to which he's more accustomed, although has done a pretty good job in filling in as a centre-half. Isaac Danzo has been an ever-present through the centre of the pitch over the last couple of seasons for Rockdale. Never anything too flashy from Isaac, just as steady as they come. He's found here by Kataoka. Rule getting his head on the ball, delays the attack rather than snuffing it out. Yinka Sobola for Kataoka. Now Risciuto ducking inside to Robillard, and that's a fine strike from Blake Risciuto, particularly considering he was off balance under the pressure from Stefan de Robillard. Kalatz felt the need to dive away to his near post, but not required to make the save there. Last game here was one that a little bit of drama. It was not on the scoreboard. Rockdale were runaway winners. Mentioned in the pre-game, did the double against Sydney United earlier in the year, but more for the injury to Mathieu Cordier, which has ruled him out for the rest of the season. Good to see him up behind the bench today, wearing the moon boot. Hoping he'll be ready to go again around the start of the 2025 season. Lachlan Constable forced to track back. He'll be required to fairly often today. Matt Hatch, converted left fullback this season. That's been a really smart move from Zelko Kalatz, moving him into that position. He'll be in talks for Team of the Year honours, and no doubt. Tarek Meyer just getting a little too familiar with Brendan Chalakian there as he tried to win the ball back high up the pitch, and the free kick goes the host's way. Alex Molchanov with you in the wind at Ilinden Sports Centre this afternoon. It's a warm wind. Temperatures touching around 27, 28 degrees around kickoff time. Be a few degrees hotter on an artificial surface, so it'll be interesting to see how fatigue comes into play later in the game and whether Rockdale's fresh legs will pay dividends for them in the end. Of course, they'd like to run away from Sydney United 58 a little bit earlier than that, as they did here in the league fixture. 4-0 winners. Took a late goal at Adenza Park back in round 9. And I already mentioned who got his name on the score sheet last weekend, Hunter Elliott, who was the hero that day. 93rd minute winner after Sydney United had led for the majority of the match. We're all too aware of the damage that Rockdale can do late, but we've had a penchant for the early goal in 2024, and so Kataoka is over this ball looking to deliver. The wind just takes it though, blowing strongly across the pitch towards our commentary and broadcast position today. If you needed a demonstration watching from home as to how that's going to affect the game today, that was it. Bakadanakoski trying to play through the wind to Robillard, the lone change for Zelko Kalatz today. Mason Wells moved to the bench. Those two have had a little running battle within the squad for the right wing role since Wells' transfer from the Bulls Academy earlier in the season. Sydney United just being able to get their foot on the ball really for the first time this afternoon. Once again, the win holding that up made it easier for Daniel Collins, and Lachlan Constable just feeling a bit of a whack in the back of his head from Matt Hatch. Which Craig Fisher, our very experienced referee today, spotted. Lachlan Griffiths has had some fitness concerns of his own over the past month or so, but fit enough to start today. Alongside Daniel Collins, who's been a terrific pickup after signing late last season from Blacktown City. In search of more regular playing time, he's certainly got that. He's been one of the first names on Paul D's team sheet over the course of the 2024 season. Braden Sorge back into the side today, heading clear of De Oliveira. Hatch manages to deliver anyway, and Nick Soros, another one of Rockdale's, well, probably their most recent signing, really. Came in during the registration window after the departure of Harrison Devonish Mears, who's getting ready for an A-League men's season with Sydney FC. Provided an assurity to their back line. Actually played in Rockdale Ilinden's last grand final qualifier in opposition. It's a 3-0 win that day to Rockdale over Sydney Olympic. Put them through to the grand final where they were beaten by Sydney United 58. Absolute classic at Marconi Stadium. 3-3 after 120 minutes. United managed to scrape home 5-4 on penalties. We just left late in there on Blake Risciuto. His way back to the club after some time overseas in Singapore. Tanjong Pagar, which is now where a name very familiar to Rockdale fans, Smokey Wada, is playing his trade. His Japanese counterpart, Kataoka, who judged that rather better, and Risciuto's header forces another flashy save from Kalas. Might have just been one for the cameras, but you saw the way Kataoka adjusted there to just float that ball into the wind and use it to help the ball spin towards the Sydney United net. Will they be able to manage this corner? Chalakian slipped as he took it, and the ball crossed over the byline. Alexis Johnson's the assistant on the far side today. She flagged it behind. So Rockdale Ilinden not yet able to find real reward for their early territorial dominance. De Oliveira not quite showing us the form that he showed on Wednesday night, where he was spectacular. There's another who's just had a couple of games off over the back end of the regular season. Looked much healthier for it in that game on Wednesday night. Backing up with just the 5-day break is a little bit more challenging. Yinka Samola is getting in behind Bakadanakoski, and there was appeals from the Rockdale Ilinden supporters. Came from the sideline rather than from the players. Been a good little scrap between Samola and Bakadanakoski. Big shoes to fill for Olayinka Samola. It's a signing from the relegated Mount Druitt Town Rangers. Part of both Central Coast Mariners and Sydney FC academy setups down the years. Rule was late on Kataoka there. Craig Fisher is happy to play advantage though, and Has to blow his whistle now that Milicevic has taken him out. And with that being his second in a couple of minutes, he becomes the first name in the referee's notebook this afternoon. So Zelko Kalac's side under a little bit of pressure early. The fact that Aiden Milicevic is back doing the defensive work there tells you just about all you need to know about how the pattern of this game has unfolded so far. Kataoka using that wind again. Rule read it well. Get the ball half clear. Constable keeps the attack alive. Giorgio Speranza loves to get forward from left full back. That's a decent ball towards Collins, who went down rather softly under the challenge. Felt the contact from Bakadanakoski. One of the strongest defenders in the competition. I don't think Craig Fisher was particularly sold on the heaviness of the contact that Collins was trying to sell. Good intensity from Rockdale in these opening minutes. Nothing less than you'd expect from them. Game they've been gearing up for. Not a team with great record in big games over the past 5 years or so. Chalakian! And Kalac is called into his third save already this afternoon. That was probably the easiest of them, but still had to be alert at his near post, and Chalakian's picked up space again. Can't steer that one on target. Pressure building and building from Rockdale Ilinden. Brenda Chalakian, who had not been particularly prominent in the early stages, just flashing to life. The opening quarter of an hour has really been in the host's favour. Their fans are making more of the noise. Sydney United have got to find their way out of the early pressure that's being applied to them. Patrick Anselmi has yet to have a meaningful touch of the football. Blake Risciuto is rolling back the years with his performance. Dinkerson Mola, a little bit of ill discipline shown there. Could see the whole way across the back line. Still wasn't able to time his run. Offside flag goes up. Alex this afternoon. A reminder that the second preliminary final is coming up from 5 o'clock. Marconi Stallions taking on Blacktown City. Tony Tanous will be out in Bosley Park to bring you that one. Decides who will be playing the winner of this game in the 2024 Grand Final at Combank Stadium next Saturday. And Anthony Tomolich joins Aiden Milicevic in Craig Fisher's notebook. Cynical challenge on Risciuto. Well, they just can't get a handle on one of the fan favourites here for Rockdale. 31 years of age. It's looking like he's got the freshest pair of legs out there at the moment, Blake Risciuto. It's his ball running ability, not something he's particularly noted for. Situations have presented themselves to the Rockdale Ilinden midfielder this afternoon, and he is capitalising upon them. Chalakian linking up with Sorge, and then Risciuto. Chalakian again. That's the sort of ball that is usually finding the head of Alek Urashevsky. Sonmola just on a slightly different page to his number 10. Chalakian now being hurried and hassled. Found Sorge. Still not clear from United. Danzo. That's a good bit of defensive work from Tarek Meyer. How many times have we seen him do that over his Sydney United career? Collins, or Griffiths rather, just struggling to read the ball in the wind. Now it finds Collins, and Soros even struggling with it a little on the ground. You can hear through our effects microphones just how consistent that, well, it's almost beyond a strong breeze. It's blowing across the field here at Rockdale this afternoon. Hosts have been able to play through it the better so far. Just as I say that, Chalakian proves the point that the ball is travelling rather a long way if you knock the ball in the air into the wind. Trying to win back the ball he initially lost. Wasn't able to do it himself, but made things easier for Daniel Collins. And then Danzo is given all sorts of space through the middle of the pitch. Kateoka, beautifully weighted pass for Chalakian. Constable trying to make something of it. Danzo, Kateoka continued his run, and Kalats tips another one round the post. He's got his cape on this afternoon, Oliver Kalats. Rockdale have huffed and puffed in the opening quarter of this game, but can't find their way past Sydney United's goalkeeper, who's having some sort of afternoon in the early stages. Was superb on Wednesday night against Apia Leichhardt, and he has continued that form this afternoon. Kateoka. Constable was trying something with a back heel, and that's a rather easy clearance for Adrian Vlastelica, a player of his talents in the defensive half of the pitch. He's unorthodox with the little toe poke. That's effective as ever. Really targeting this left-hand side of the pitch at the moment, Rockdale. Chalakian. I think it's only a matter of time if this sort of pressure continues to be piled upon Sydney United's defence. With a helping hand, more than a helping hand from their goalkeeper. Constable's got the better of Hatch. Can only fire it into the gloves of Sydney United's goalkeeper. Yeah, just joining us, no Alek Urashevsky this afternoon from the start anyway for Rockdale Ilinden. 31 goals over the 30-game regular season have won him the Golden Boot, but not available with a hamstring strain. Was picked up on the final day against the Central Coast Mariners. Will only be used if he's needed off the bench this afternoon by Paul D. And Sydney United are finally able to break out of their own end and have won themselves an attacking corner. Good work from Bailey Rule down the right. Player who does like to get forward. Actually spent time higher up the pitch at different points of last season under Miro Vlastelica. Playing as a right winger. He's someone who is adept enough in the final third as well as his defensive half of the pitch. Ball holding up in the wind again, and this time it's pounced upon by Lachlan Griffiths, of all people, who is leading Rockdale forward. Might get a nosebleed up there, Lockie Griffiths. Shows very good poise and technique to hold off the retreating Sydney United defenders. Put Rockdale in a promising position. She's not to go super direct, but now with their full complement joining the attack, they can continue to put raid after raid together on Sydney United's goal. Collins for Danzo. Chalakian's so clever in those tight little areas, but he's not able to get quite the right weight on that one for Braden Sorge. Another one of the Rockdale players who's spent time out this season through injury, a foot injury which sidelined him for a few months. Taken off in the early stages of their darkest day of what has been a very sunny season. Thumping loss at Marconi, which some thought might swing the title race. It proved not to be the case. They went on to just lose one more game after that. So close rivals Sydney Olympic down at Netstrata Jubilee Stadium. Other than that, have been near faultless. The question for Rockdale Ilinden has always been, are they able to take the next step? There's never really been questions about the ability of the players or the style of football that they play. They've always been an enjoyable team to watch, but the Waratah Cup final defeat by Apia Leichhardt a couple of weeks ago furthered that narrative somewhat. Tomalic into a crowd of bodies, and it struck Lachlan Griffiths, who just turned his body away a little. I do wonder how much he quite knew about the shot that was being fired in at him. Second corner in a couple of minutes for Sydney United 58. Aiden Milicevic working against the wind here, so fires it in low. Not really dealt with by Rockdale, and De Oliveira's strike was knocked down by Lachlan Constable, who was quick out of his own area to close down Sydney United's number 10. Can Sydney United just set up a little bank of pressure in their opposition's half? This is where they love to build up and play. Slowing the tempo somewhat, that'll be all the more important given the shorter turnaround they've had. From that last game on Wednesday night versus Rockdale, who've had all week to prepare for this one. That's a pretty poor pass from Bakadanakoski, in all honesty. Constable pounces upon the error. De Oliveira trying to help out defensively, might have just taken one or two touches too many there, Lockie Constable. Run himself into a dead end. Rockdale will regroup and go again. Giorgio Speranza for Chalakian. Well read by Bailey Rule. Second season at NPL New South Wales level, after spending his formative years with the Northern Tigers down in what is now League One. Just as Bakadanakoski came up with an error, Lachlan Griffiths has returned in kind. So Milicevic running Sydney United out of trouble. De Robillard. Meyer looking to measure it for Anselmi. He's onside. Back for Tarek Meyer. And very conservative piece of defending, but effective enough from Risciuto. He didn't want to risk diving in and providing a leg for Patrick Anselmi to go over. That early ascendancy, it was almost a monopoly on possession that Rockdale had established for themselves in the early stages, is dissipating slowly. Sydney United getting a hold in this grand final qualifier. So Isaac Danzo will be key in trying to turn the momentum, as will Blake Risciuto, who was so present in the early stages. Tarek Meyer is growing into this game. That's a brilliantly timed challenge for Braden Sorge. Seen him do that so many times over a career that spans a decade now in Rockdale Ilinden colours. Right at the centre of the celebrations last Sunday. Speranza. Giorgio, that is. Brother Roberto watching on. He's had an injury-plagued first year with the new club. After making the move from Marconi with his brother in the off-season. Giorgio has slotted in beautifully at left full-back for Ball Day this season. Risciuto. Couple of white shirts to try and turn past, not able to do it. So Matt Hatch can just get his head up and try and measure something for Anselmi. His control was brilliant. Shrugged off Griffiths. And the United fans rise. Ball just had too much on it for De Robillard, not helped by the wind. Managed to keep the ball in play though. Rule. Sydney United keep their composure and find something? Not quite. Tomolic has provided plenty of good balls into the area. Over the course of his Sydney United career, that wasn't one of them. So Craig Fisher says that will do for the opening half hour of this game. Best chances came early for Rockdale Ilinden. 3 or 4 saves made by Oliver Callas. The first 2 sharp reaction efforts. First a header from Blake Risciuto and then Brendan Chalakian. Sydney United have not been able to muster chances of the same quality, but are starting to grow their way back into this game. Drinks breaks being taken with the hot temperatures this afternoon. See Alec Ruszewski down there, just having a word with Craig Fisher. A little bit of strapping on that right hamstring, which is the reason he's only available off the bench today. Was a thought out there that he might miss the squad altogether. Thankful Rockdale that that's not the case, given how important these next 2 weeks are for them. Should they get to that grand final, of course. Sydney United have caused more than a few upsets. Games have been second favourites coming into over the past couple of seasons. Western United and the Brisbane Roar will be able to tell you all about that. So Rockdale, now the question is how to re-establish that dominance that they took in the early stages of this game. Just a reminder that that second preliminary final is coming up this afternoon from Marconi Stadium, kick-off at 5 p.m. And if you're looking for highlights, match reports, previews, reviews, there's going to be a lot of content going up via the socials in the build-up to the grand final next week at CommBank Stadium. The women's kicking off at 2 p.m. before the men's at 6 p.m. Be able to find all that information at NPL NSW is what you need to search on Facebook, Instagram or X, formerly Twitter, or across all those platforms, and you'll be able to find all the highlights of these preliminary finals as well as previews and some special interviews we've got coming for you ahead of those grand finals next weekend. So play restarted from the goal kick by Nick Soros. Rockdale Ilinden will look to try and provide a little bit more service to Olayinka Samola. He's had one good chance turned away by Oliver Kalats. Was the player of the opening 20 minutes or so. Sydney United have been able to turn the tide enough that that's not been the case in the last 10 minutes or so, but Rockdale still applying more of the pressure. More like this coming from Sydney United though. Rule right from the byline, and then Meyer fires over. Lost his head in the key moment, Tarek Meyer just leaning back as he struck that ball, and it flies away over Nick Soros' crossbar. For a player so technically gifted as Tarek Meyer is, he'll be very disappointed with that. Want to get something on target from that sort of range at the very least. Lovely run by Bailey Rule down the right to create the opportunity. It's a little bit of a worry for Rockdale as well. It's similar to the way the game started against Apia Leichhardt in the Waratah Cup final. Didn't take their chances early and were punished for it late. And with players like Patrick Anselmi around, as well as De Oliveira, they're going to be careful. Milicevic! Sydney United's best period of the game brings the opening goal. First blood in the preliminary final. And the travelling fans are in full voice. Where Tarek Meyer couldn't just a moment ago, Aiden Milicevic kept his head, showed great poise, and fired the half volley right into the corner. No chance for Nick Soros. And just as they did on Wednesday night, Sydney United have the lead away from home. They didn't relinquish it on Wednesday, and Rockdale are going to have to come from behind. They managed to do it against this opposition early in the season. But has the big game bug got them again? Still a lot of football to be played. They've put enough together to be hopeful, Rockdale. But punished for not taking their chances. Can they create more here? Chalarkin looking to strike straight back. And Kalatz's early work has been rewarded in full. Kataoka, who was so present early in this game for Rockdale Ilinden, is fading out of it. Bailey Rule is starting to dominate that little individual battle. Well won back by Constable. Beautifully timed press. Got options either side, and Moller didn't time his run and fired over in any case. Zelko Kalat's not exactly happy with the response of his team to that opening goal, though. He's up at the edge of his technical area, crying for his team to stay focused. Big shot of adrenaline for a team on short rest. But they have been the team for the big occasion, Sydney United 58. In the NPL New South Wales, they're proving that yet again here. Knew they would be no pushovers. Rockdale knew it as well, and so they must be berating themselves for not taking those opportunities early. Paul Dean, he's returned to the technical area this afternoon. There's plenty to think about. Kataoka, they're putting good passages of play like this together fairly regularly, though. Rockdale still. Sydney United struggling to get close to them. And Kataoka, who had returned fairly clearly to most of the fans here from an offside position, got himself involved, and so Sydney United have a free kick deep in their own half. That really does change the narrative. We've got just under 10 minutes to play in this first half of the New South Wales NPL preliminary final. Rockdale, for all their dominance over the opening 25-30 minutes, trail 1-0 at home. The fans have not had too much to cheer about. It's been a terrific atmosphere around the grounds. This is the bug that Rockdale had. Before that 2020 semi-final here against Sydney Olympic, they lost to Apia in a minor semi-final. Kataoka getting forward, Hatch putting it behind for a corner. They lost to Manly United on penalties in a game that Brendan Chalakian played for Manly United. In a grand final qualifier, Manly United went on to win that competition. 2016 lost an elimination final to Bonnyrigg. 2014 lost an elimination final to Sydney Olympic. 2013 made it all the way to the grand final, where they were beaten 1-0 by Bonnyrigg and a lone Robbie Eunice goal. That's the history they're trying to fight off, and Kalatz, don't know how much he knew about it, but he got his hands down quickly enough to just beat it away from danger. Rockdale spring forward again. Chalakian brought down by De Oliveira. So they'll get a second bite of the cherry from a set piece. Another potential storyline we could be seeing in the second half is the return of Liam McGing, who is amongst the substitutes for the first time since his suspension for the challenge on Matthew Cordier here during the regular season. That's a watch for the second half. For now, Rockdale with another set-piece opportunity. It's fallen to Speranza. Just a little off balance, and so couldn't steer his shot on target. Sydney United survive another Rockdale raid. It's going to be a difficult halftime team talk for Paul D if it does stay this way, because the fact of the matter is, on the balance of play, there have been the better sides. This is not too much he wants to change in reality, other than taking those chances when they present themselves. Nick Stavroulakis is now playing ball boy, trying to keep the pace and the tempo of this game up right until half-time. Nick, a player who had so much success with Sydney United around a decade ago now. Nice turn from Chalakian. They're looking for that ball into the channel for Samola, has not come off to this point. Been well covered by Vlastelica in behind Bakadanakoski, who's been probably the higher of the two centre halves. Samola hasn't been able to shake off the attentions of Sydney United's defensive duo. Sydney United, I'm sure, will be searching for the sanctity of the dressing room, although Carlos de Oliveira is thinking about a second goal. Matt Hatch goes inches away from getting that second goal. And Rockdale, for all their sparkling football this afternoon, continue to look just a little bit shaky at the back. After an opening 25 minutes or so where Sydney United could barely get out of their own half, now every time they do get forward they look dangerous. But it's still Rockdale who are creating more. Karaoka gauges rule and gets the free kick off the young right back. So Karaoka, a player with experience in J3, nearly 100 appearances in Japanese football before making the move to Australia. He's a youth team player with Vissel Kobe. Fans will know because of their association recently with one Andres Iniesta. That's the stock that the Japanese winger comes from. He's floated that one too deep. It's just not quite been able to get his measure right with the winds swirling a little around the Ilinden Sports Centre this afternoon. As I've said a couple of times, it's blowing most of the time straight across from the far grandstand to our broadcast position as you're looking at the action in front of you. Occasionally it'll just pick up a gust from east to west. Here's to Robillard. Oh, he couldn't, could he? Soares has it crossed the line. No, says Matt Harris, who has perfectly positioned the assistant on the near side. And Nick Soares got to that ball in the nick of time. It snuck through his grasp initially, and he just managed to recover the football before it snuck over the line. Otherwise, de Robillard would have had Sydney United's second goal, and there really would have been a hill to climb for Rockdale Ilinden in the second half. That would have been a crushing blow, considering the pattern of play in this first half. Sydney United dogged, yes. Determined, yes. Efficient when going forward, certainly. Don't want to pay them discredit, but Rockdale Ilinden, some of the stuff they have managed to come up with has been lighting up Sydney on this Sunday afternoon. But missing the finishing touch of Alek Urashevsky, no other player for them is in double figures this season in terms of goals scored. That is the importance of their captain. And Yinkinson Mola stepping into those big, big shoes today. Can't question his work rate or the intensity of his play. He's been caught a couple of times offside. Add that to some sterling goalkeeping from Oliver Kalatz, which has been worth the price of admission on its own. And And you have the picture of what has occurred here in this first half. Long way to go. But Sydney United, you feel, as we approach half-time, have finally got the game where they want it. Vlastelitz's a beautifully weighted ball for Matt Hatch. Keep it in. Sorge stepping in, didn't get a touch. Ball flies away behind for a goal kick. We just get a slight break in the winds, which has been unrelenting this afternoon. It has been most of the weekend across Sydney. Collins for Chalakian. And Constable. Prosciutto overlapping. Constable trying to get up and for a red and black player inside. The intensity has gone out of Rockdale's attacking, and I wonder if that's anything to do with the heat that we're playing in this afternoon. Makes that goal that Sydney United were able to get all the more important. Makes those big saves from Oliver Kalatz in the opening stages all the more important. A nervous energy we felt around the Ilinden Sports Centre at the minute. One that was full of celebration a week ago is now ridden with anxiety. Vlastelitz's stepping out. Hatch offering the wide option. And Carlos de Oliveira has been pinged for a high foot here. Sorge was stooping to try and get his head on that football. Just drew the diminutive winger into the challenge. Time is running out for Rockdale if they want to get this equaliser before half time. Collins for Sorge. Now Prosciutto, so prominent early. Really faded out of this first half as it's gone on. Lovely bit of work from Aiden Milicevic, who's on the score sheet and having a fine afternoon. De Oliveira hasn't been quite as tidy as he was on Wednesday night. Was part of the scramble that led to the goal. 3 minutes to be added on here at the end of the first half. That's a nice touch from Samola for Kataoka. Hasn't really had the opportunity to get in off this left flank too often in the first half. Constable trying to sum up his options. Eventually Danzo presents himself. Giorgio Speranza forward from left full back. Did well to get it into a dangerous area, but Tarek Meyer read it to perfection. Griffiths gives Danzo something to chase. It was a clever flick around out, tell me, but I only found Robillard. They've got to be very careful there, Sydney United. Tell me with his back to goal. Somewhere he's comfortable playing. The throwing goes Rockdale's way. Larkin was blocked off, but it was a coming together rather than anything untoward on Bailey Rule's part. So the question I posed about 15 minutes ago still stands for Paul D. What to change? Because there's been so much to like. The energy's gone out of their play a little bit in the last 10 or 15 minutes, and certainly they're looking more and more open defensively. But in an attacking sense, they've created more than enough to, if not be level, be ahead in this game. Chalakian for Prosciutto. Might have a couple more bites before the break. Prosciutto. Chalakian looking to fire it into a dangerous area. It deflected straight back to him, and then he was a little tentative with the follow-up, and then Sorge just playing a blind pass, which means that the attack comes to a close. Griffiths got a foot in. Tomlic happy to launch it down the other end with half-time in sight. Robillard, who is one of the freshest Sydney United players out there after not starting on Wednesday night. Still has the energy to chase it down and almost ambles his way back into position. Griffiths. By Antonio on the bench as well today. He's been a regular starter in the second half of the season, not this afternoon. St Mola! And that's how close Rockdale were to their equaliser. Kalatz was beaten. Didn't move after seeing the strike off the boot of Yinka St Mola. But that sums up Rockdale's first half. So many chances. Plenty of saves made by Oliver Kalatz, who was superb in the opening 25 minutes. Then the tide turned. Sydney United had a good period and got their goal through Aiden Milicevic, a brilliantly taken half volley, which swept past Nick Soros and gave Sydney United first blood in the preliminary final. Yinka St Mola striking the post right in the dying embers of the first half. This is the closest that Rockdale came to an equaliser. At half-time from the Ilinden Sports Centre in the first of the preliminary semi-finals on this Sunday afternoon in the NPL New South Wales men's competition. It's Rockdale Ilinden 0, Sydney United 58-1. Welcome back to the Ilinden Sports Centre, the first of the semi-finals this afternoon in the NPL New South Wales men's competition. The early goal coming to Sydney United 58 through Aidan Milicevic just after the half-hour mark. Rockdale Ilinden striking the post right, basically with the last kick of the first half through Yinka Samola. That's the closest they've come to an equaliser. They had plenty of opportunities to take the lead. Oliver Callas largely to thank for the fact that Sydney United's sheet is still clean. If they can hold on to that record for another 45 minutes, they'll be through to the grand final next Saturday. Awaiting either their great rivals, the Marconis. Well, both of those two teams playing that semi-final have traditional rivalries with Sydney United 58. Blacktown City visiting Marconi later this afternoon. That one kicking off at 5 p.m. You'll be able to find that with Tony Tanus where you found this one on the Football New South Wales YouTube page. Alex Molchanoff here with you in Rockdale for the second half. No changes to either side at the break. So we wondered what Paul D's team talk would be at half time, because there had been so much to like and there had been so many chances created. It's just the finishing touch that's been missing. Period in which Sydney United got their goal was their best of the first half, after seeing off a bucket load of pressure in the opening 25 minutes. It's almost the drinks break that brought that little shift in momentum. It certainly wasn't anything glaring. It's just that Sydney United were able to get forward a little more frequently. They made their small amount of pressure pay, and now Daniel Collins has used his hand to block that ball from being played through. Not quite sure how intentional it was, but it was certainly away from his body, and so Craig Fisher, with the attack developing, had little choice but to reach into his pocket. Book the first Rockdale Ilinden player of the afternoon, 29-year-old defender. Carlos de Oliveira, it's not quite at his brilliant best in the first half. Touch there, sort of a similar variety, just dribbling the ball out of play. Terrific noise from the far side when the goal went in. The Sydney United fans who've travelled in good number again here today. Rockdale spectators were up and about early, but have been rather more subdued since going behind. The Rockdale substitutes beginning to warm up. By Antonio is one of them. This is Dean Pelikanos. Could be drafted into one of those central midfield roles, you feel. But Blake Risciuto's had a handy knack for getting important goals this season. You wonder whether it'll be him. Milicevic was sloppy going into that challenge. And he's got to be very, very careful. He's got the goal, but he's also walking the tightrope with his name already in Craig Fisher's notebook. You get the feeling that will be very close to his last chance if it wasn't exactly that. Rockdale trying to turn the tide. Lachlan Constable not really going about it in the best manner, turning the ball over and then coming through the back of Carlos de Oliveira. There's been no lack of application from Lachlan Constable this afternoon, but his decision-making hasn't always been the sharpest. 23-year-old played his junior football out towards Sydney United's neck of the woods in Glenmore Park. Key part of this Rockdale Ilinden team over the past couple of seasons as a precocious winger. Kateoka and Rule going up in the air together. Youth taking on experience, and Youth has one out through Bailey Rule. De Robillard right in front of Sydney United supporters, winning his team an attacking throw. And it's been a better start to the second half from Zelko Kalas's side. Exactly what they were looking for with this lead to defend. Big game bug has been the talking point for Rockdale Ilinden. They've struggled to win these important matches in vast contrast to their opposition today, who seem to love to do it as the underdogs. That narrative is continuing to be written. Rockdale need to find a way to flip the script. A goal would be the best way. De Oliveira is becoming more and more engaged in this football match, which is not good news for Rockdale. That ball just had a little bit too much bite on it. Wind is continuing to blow across the field from the grandstand towards our broadcast position. Has been with us all afternoon, as is the warm temperature. Reminder, Rockdale, the minor premiers. Sealed the premiership with 2 games to play. Funnily enough, it was that Marconi versus Blacktown fixture out at Marconi Stadium which did it. Blacktown running out 2-1 winners in that game, handing the title to Rockdale Ilinden before their game the next day. Chalakian, who went down under the challenge. It looked fairly fair from where we're standing, and Milicevic, who's already got 1 goal this afternoon, is licking his lips at the opportunity to get another. It goes for goal, and Soros beats it away. Rockdale protests continue about what Brendan Chalakian thought was a foul committed against him. I have to say, I don't know that there was that much of a case. Two sets of active supporters exchanging barbs. You can expect that to continue throughout this second half and into extra time and penalties if they're required. Reminder that we 30 minutes added on if we are level after 90, and then a penalty shootout to decide who goes through to the grand final. That scenario not needed at the moment. Oh, and Bakadanakoski just drifted into an unmarked position. Might not have expected the ball to reach him, and then couldn't control the header. So Sydney United turn up a big chance. The tide is turning towards the team that have the lead in this game, and this is a very, very familiar narrative for Rockdale supporters. Exactly what happened in the Waratah Cup final, almost to a T against Apia Leichhardt, where they started the game so well, went behind, and then gave up the impetus. They're trying not to let that happen again here, although Kataoka just on a slightly different page to Brendan Chalakian, and there are some murmurs of frustration starting to emanate from the grandstand on the far side. Rockdale supporters trying to lift their side. Karlat's taking every second he's allowed over this goal kick. Oleg Urashevsky is up and moving about. If you have just joined us, Urashevsky ruled out from the start today with a minor hamstring injury, which picked up in the final regular season round against the Central Coast Mariners. It's looking as though Paul D may need to use him, unless Rockdale are able to find their equaliser in the next 10 or 15 minutes. He's going with a double change before the introduction of the club captain, though, by Antonio and Dean Pelikanos, both being readied. Down with the 4th official now. Sorgi's got a big effort to keep that one in play. He did exactly that, and then Lachlan Constable clever enough to inside the throw. Nick Savralak is handing out the last-minute instructions to the 2 subs. Interesting to see who is removed from the midfield, if that's indeed where Pelikanos goes. Figure it may well be So Kataoka, who's making way for Bai Antonio, if it's a like-for-like substitution. Rockdale looking to strike back before those subs are made, though. Sorge didn't see him get forward too often in the first half, and he's misplaced that pass. Well picked off by Tarek Maya, whose regain statistic would be one of the highest in the competition, you figure. And Telmi dancing past Rishuto. That's the weight on the pass. Not too bad for de Robillard. Craig Fisher plays advantage. Rule getting forward, and Collins having to get back and turn the ball behind. Rockdale will wait to make the substitutions with a corner to defend. Such is the done thing in football. I figure it could work one of two ways. Rockdale Ilinden attacking towards the end their supporters are occupying, as are Sydney United in their second half. Will give us some good pictures if there is a second goal in this game, no doubt. Milicevic swinging it deep, using the wind. Vlastelica had occupied that spot and then came in rather high on Collins. It was inadvertent on his opposition centre half. Looked as though it hurt Daniel Collins nonetheless. Yeah, so it is as we predicted. So Kataoka is the man to be removed for Rockdale Ilinden by Antonio. It's the man bringing him off, and it's Lachlan Griffiths who is the other one to be removed. So Blake Rishuto will shift back into the central defensive role that he's taken up for the best part of the last couple of months. Dean Pelikanos slotting in alongside Isaac Danzo in the centre of midfield. De Oliveira just had a couple of Rockdale players to beat, couldn't do it. Collins. Danzo. Milicevic had lost his footing inside, which provided a little bit of space for Chalakian. The direct route is his favoured one, and Bakadanakoski, through the combination of a couple of challenges, eventually draws the referee's whistle. Craig Fisher beginning to become impatient with Sydney United. Taking a little long over their restarts. Understandable. There'd be too many teams rushing things in a similar situation. Antonio's first job is to try and turn his team out of trouble in his defensive half. Rishuto and Giorgio Speranza combined to do just that. Now Samola in a foot race with Bakadanakoski. There's not too many who can beat Bakadanakoski, but Samola's done exactly that and won his side a corner. Good recovering challenge from Adrian Vlastelica, who came across in cover. But in that little 50-metre sprint, Yinka Samola showed that he had the legs to outrun Dejan Bakadanakoski. Is this the moment for Rockdale? Chalakian takes. Kalat's got something on it. Enough to repel the initial effort. Then De Oliveira getting his header to the second ball in. Sorge might get a third bite. This time it's Vlastelica's turn to clear. This is more like what we were seeing in the early stages of the first half, where Rockdale were winning a lot of these loose balls and not allowing Sydney United out of their own end. Hung up in the wind by Collins. Bakadanakoski with a clever piece of defending. Danger not clear though. Chalakian rather wild with that effort. Liam McGing, Mason Wells and Adam Zervas making their way to warm up for Sydney United. Zoko Kalatz has just got to be careful of his side losing the momentum that they'd gathered for themselves either side of the break. Really have shown great character to work their way back into this game and take the lead and now hold on to it. And they've reduced the amount of opportunities Rockdale have been able to create. The energy's still there for the home side though. Flashing across the face of goal. The ball in from Chalakian. Just needing someone to gamble. All eyes, certainly all Rockdale supporters' eyes, on Alek Urashevsky, who is behind the goal stretching. Keep you updated as to where he's sitting over the course of this match. Matt Hatch making a brilliant run to keep that ball in play and just thumped it into Braden Sorge. Sydney United have an attacking throw. See Urashevsky on the top of your picture there, right parallel to the 6-yard area. How long does Paul D wait? Hatch linking up with De Oliveira. By Antonio. Asking Samola to run for that one, and there's a coming together between he and Bakadanakoski. Had a good little battle over the course of the afternoon. Pelikanos. For Danzo, and now Giorgio Speranza. Antonio just having to flick it off Bailey Rule to win his side of the throw, right in front of the Rockdale fans. Giorgio Speranza floating it towards Chalakian, and now Samola. If Chalakian was looking to pick that back up off his striker. Danger still not cleared until Pelikanos played a loose ball, and then De Oliveira getting a bit too much on it to try and feed Patrick Anselmi. Desperation starting to set in. Expect nothing less. Ticking into the final quarter of the match, or towards it. Sorge. Have Sydney United pulled the ball out? Are they happy to sit and defend this one-goal lead? It's certainly looking more and more like that is the case. Sorge gets the better of Hatch. Vlastelica using all parts of his body to cut out the cross. And Selmy, first effort didn't end up where he wanted it to, but all's well that has ended well. Cool as ever, Anthony Tomlich has not been the superstar of any of the teams he's played in over the years since Sydney United 58. He's just the constant figure. Some words of engagement being yelled by both the Sydney United 58 bench and their captain. Talked to a couple of players. I think Matt Hatch was bearing the brunt of it. Oliver Kalat's managing this game for Sydney United, along with his captain. Adrian Vlastelica has led them in so many big occasions like this. Is he about to lead them to another grand final? Hatch certainly hopes so. Couldn't find Milicevic. Fell to De Oliveira. Just couldn't get his feet set. Carlos De Oliveira. Hasn't been his finest afternoon. Sydney United won't care if he gets another chance next week on Saturday. Giorgio Speranza diving in to just hold up the attack, but this is where Sydney United want the game. Slowing ever so gradually. The one-goal lead given to them just after the half-hour mark by Aiden Milicevic. Collins for Sorge. He's finding more and more space down this right-hand side as the second half wears on. He's looking for Samola. Back at Donikoski. Just edging him off the ball. Kalats takes the ball and just allows himself a moment to clear. Not his best work of the afternoon. You can go back and have a look at the highlights at NPL NSW if you want to do that this afternoon. You'll be able to see 3 or 4 superb saves from Oliver Kalats, which meant that the game was still deadlocked when Aiden Milicevic fired home. Juraszewski's still bouncing up and down the touchline. Has he only got the 20 minutes in him? Is that the mark? Mason Wells making his way over to the Sydney United bench. Sorge, just too many white shirts in there, and Tarek Maya is too clever. Good ball from Hatch. And Selmy. Tomalich for Rule. And this is where Sydney United have been such an improved side this year in attacking transition. De Robillard. Tomalich. It's towards Anselmi. Might have been offside in any case. Sorge diving to clear. And Samola, who was being held at halfway by Tomalich. Craig Fisher was waiting to see if advantage accrued. It didn't. Pelikanos, another one of those former A-League Academy players, was captain of the Wanderers underage side for a time. Antonio, haven't seen too much of him since coming on, and on his less favoured right foot, not able to try and pierce open a gap in the Sydney United defence. They are getting in closer and closer to the grand final next Saturday. Risciuto trying to deny them that. Tomalich blocking, and so the ball has to be kept in play by Sydney United, so don't concede the corner. And Telmy almost read that better than Collins. The ball just bouncing off the back of Sydney United's top scorer. Samola looking to do it all himself. It's into a crowd of Sydney United bodies. Chalakian didn't want to get involved. Antonio certainly did. Constable, it just wouldn't fall for him at a nice height, so he opts to go back and recycle possession. Pelikanos, and Constable loses his footing. Attempting to retrieve the return pass. Hatch happy to see it over the byline, and here he is. Alek Urashevsky. About to be unleashed by Paul D. Not fully fit with that hamstring injury picked up against the Mariners, but he's on the pitch. The Rockdale skipper, right as we go to the drinks break. So, a little bit of an anticlimax, but there'll be some more instructions taken on board, no doubt. This is the period after which Sydney United were able to turn the tide in the first half. Before the drinks break, it was all Rockdale Ilinden. It was barely 3 or 4 minutes after we'd returned from the stoppage that Aiden Milicevic's half volley gave Sydney United 58 the 1-goal lead, which they still hold. A couple of substitutes being readied by Zelko Kalats as well. So much focus on Urasevsky, understandably. Favourite to take out Player of the Year honours again this season, as well as the Golden Boot. 31 goals in 30 league games. There's an argument that might have even been 32. Bit of consternation over one of those goals, but 31 is more than enough. The two changes being readied by Zelko Kalats. It looks like Alessandro Lacalandra and Mason Wells were the two. So, we're ready to get back underway. Oliver Kalatz with a goal kick. Man removed. Should mention as well, Oli Inkasamola, who struck the post just before the break. Inches away from making the scoreline 1-1. Hunter Elliott's made his way onto the field as well. End of Braden Sorge's afternoon. They've got players who can pop up with a goal all over the pitch, Rockdale. Have done so over the course of the season. They've never needed one as badly as they need it now. Antonio. Bashing that one really towards Urashevsky, who was in an offside position. Not the greatest first impact. That change has been made for Sydney United 58 as well. Mason Wells on for Stefan de Robillard. That like-for-like switch on the right flank. Rockdale supporters making their feelings clear towards Dejan Bakadanakoski, who's just holding things up for as long as possible. So just about 20 minutes to play in the preliminary final. Sydney United 58 in pole position to qualify for their first grand final since 2020 when they beat Rockdale on penalties. Been in a couple of Waratah Cup finals since then. Beaten by Spirit FC in 2022 before winning it against Apia in 2023. That one's a decent ball towards Urashevsky. He kept it in! Immediate impact! Too clever. Alek Urashevsky just stuck it back to Lockie Constable, who was completely unmarked, and he tapped into an empty net. It's 1-1, and finally those Rockdale fans have something to sing about. If you wonder why he gets so much focus and so much press, that is why. Barely 3 minutes since coming on. He read the flight of the football. He hadn't switched off. The United defence did. And finally Rockdale have an equaliser. Can Sydney United take their lead straight back? It's in towards Mason Wells. Yet to have a touch of the football. Rule. Soros came, could only punch. Milicevic and Maya, a wild effort, which skews off the outside of his boots and away for a goal kick. So Lachlan Constable, he's had a difficult afternoon, found himself in the right place at the right time. The ball at his feet and no one in front of him. Goal gaping, and it's his name that will be the one recorded. Those telling the story, though, will note the impact of the Rockdale Ilinden skipper. Here's Hunter Elliott. The team have fought gamely. They've kept the fight alive. Sydney United have barely had a sniff in their second half of getting a second goal. And Blake Rasciuto, such a fan favourite here at the Ilinden Sports Centre, by Antonio, looking to get the bit between his teeth, but just losing his footing. You can hear the noise emanating from the grandstand on the far side. It's been rather subdued to this point. It's not now. Elliott for Pelikanos, and these changes have taken a positive effect. Lots of white shirts back. Sydney United might have gone on the defensive just a few minutes too early. That's been tough. They have fought and clawed and struggled to get a foothold at any point in this game. Have managed to have it for a few moments. Rusevski off the bench making immediate impact and then sliding into the back of Bailey Rule. Just see the way he's lifted his sides in an emotional sense as well as anything more tangible. The fans were buoyed. There was a response to his introduction. Rockdale have made grand finals. They've played them. They've not won since 1984 against Inter Monaro. Funnily enough, they had to come from 2 goals down. Oh, come from a goal down twice that day. Harness the spirit of that team from 40 years ago. Pelicanos diving into the area. Mason Wells back to do the defending. Rusevski involved in a deep position. Gets it back off Chalakian. Doesn't love that right foot, so looked to try and get it on his left, and back at Anakoski anticipated that and nicked it off his toe. De Oliveira, full of running as ever. Tomalic. Just playing the metronome and slowing the pace a bit, allowing Sydney United to regain their bearings and their focus. Selko Kalatz looks as though he's going through an emotional roller coaster ride on the side of this pitch. The club with which he's so synonymous, taking charge of it as its manager for the first time. Kalatz's name is ingrained in his football club. Ollie did such a terrific job in the first half of denying Rockdale the goal which they so longed for. Pelicanos with a rather cynical challenge, I think it's fair to say, on Mason Wells. So his name is taken by the referee. It's the second Rockdale player to be booked this afternoon, along with Daniel Collins. It's been a game which it's had so much fire and brimstone about it over the past 4 or 5 seasons, but been playing in a good spirit today. A lot of the players know each other very well. It's been a gripping watch. Wonder if we are still locked up 1-1 after 90 minutes. There will be extra time. Golden goal, which went by the wayside quite a while ago. 2 15-minute periods, regardless of how many are scored. And then if that's not enough to split the two sides, we'll have penalty kicks. De Oliveira crying for the free kick, which wasn't forthcoming. Elliott, Constable, well, that's quite silly from the Rockdale goalscorer, really. Had a good look. Basically had the same view as the assistant and still didn't manage to hold his run. Ilinden bench becoming more and more vocal as this afternoon goes on. They can smell a chance here. With that equaliser, they are once again the favourites, Rockdale. Not only because of their record against Sydney United recently, who haven't beaten them in league play since that 2020 grand final. Beaten them just once in 8 meetings. It's a 2022 Waratah Cup game. So they won by a 1-0. And of course, that grand final victory only came on penalty kicks. The last time Sydney United beat Rockdale in league play inside 90 minutes was back in 2019. It was also here. 3-2 win. Goals from Patrick Anselmi, Peter Simonovsky and Matthew Sim that day. Simi, of course, so key in the grand final victory a year later over that same opposition. one they're facing here today, the one they're trying to vanquish once again in the final series. Tomalic looking for Hatch, had it nicked off his toe by Constable. It's had a roller coaster ride of an afternoon, which ended with him getting the equaliser. Collins for Pelikanos, who's added a measure of calm to the midfield since coming on. Chalakian buzzing about. Misplacing the pass for Hunter Elliott. And Urashevsky sharing some firm words. Vlastelic are happy just to clear his lines. Collins almost looked as though he had Anselmi in a headlock, whether unintentionally or by design. Craig Fisher says just they're coming together. Anselmi was as responsible as his defensive opponent. Constable again recognised that he hadn't timed his run. Would have been flagged offside even if he had chased it. So just a moment to breathe. Rudashevsky asking his team for more. Thought we were going to see Alessandro Lacalandra a few minutes ago. Now it looks as though Coach Kalatz is ready to make that change, with extra time looming, hovering over this game. Vlastelic are dwelling on it, with Urashevsky ever the opportunist. He's not a player with endless energy, Alek Urashevsky, but he's so good at picking his moments. As is Patrick Anselmi, who's turned away and fired just wide of Nick Soros' goal. What a goal against the run of play that would have been. But with so much of our attention up here on Urashevsky, Patrick Anselmi reminds us, hey, I'm here as well. So it's Aiden Milicevic who gave Sydney United the lead this afternoon, whose day ends here. Alessandro Lacalandra to play up alongside Anselmi, I think. See how deep he plays, although it's set up from the corner, from the goal kick rather. He's sitting in behind him, so Anselmi wants him up alongside him. And now Lachlan Constable is down receiving treatment, so be a bit more to come on the substitution front. Time for another impromptu drinks break here, with Rockdale Ilinden's goal scorer down on his haunches, back to his feet now. For Rockdale still on their bench, Bray Ovens is the last outfield player, along with the goalkeeper Ricardo Rizzo. Got a goal last week, his first in senior league football. Couple more bullets still in the chamber for Zelko Kalatz. If he looks to fire them, Christian Gonzalez, Adam Zavas, and of course Liam McGing making his return to the NPL New South Wales on the ground where that long suspension came. Hatch, who's just looked a little rushed in his work in the second half, hasn't quite had the freedom that he so loves. Tomalic to Vlastelic. How many times has that been said over the past decade or so? Maya got his head to it, but it was to the advantage of Constable. Now Pelikanos got such brilliant range of passing, and he's asked by Antonio to go and get that one. Urashevsky's in there early, and by Antonio, not with one of his tidier pieces of work. Usually pretty deadly in those sorts of positions, Rockdale's left winger. Coming off the bench today. find his captain through the middle of the pitch. So the wait goes on for a third goal. One you feel, if it comes now, may well decide who's playing in the grand final. De Oliveira. That's just a second late and overlapping, and ball in was easy to field for Soros. Constable and the fresh legs of Hunter Elliott, Manly United junior. He's had a terrific first season in red and black. Constable loose and looking a little fatigued, in all honesty. Gets away with it though, because Tomalic caught Isaac Danzo. Oh, and Chalakian's picked up space between defensive midfield. Antonio, this is well taken from Rockdale. And the ball is deflected behind off the shin of Dejan Bakadanakoski. The Rockdale supporters in full voice. Why wouldn't they be? Searching for a goal to take them to a grand final. Chalakian over to take it. It's been difficult with the wind today to really measure these set pieces. That's a decent one towards Urashevsky. Back out for Antonio into the crowd of bodies in front of Oliver Kalatz. Mason Wells, I think it was, who got the telling touch. Back out for Giorgio Speranza, who's popped up on the right-hand side. Danzo opting to go all the way back to Soros. And so the impetus from the corner somewhat lost. Shuto going up in the air with Vlastelica, lost it in the sun for a moment. And just hoofs it away. Rockdale's trying to keep the tempo up. They want the ball in play as often as possible now. They feel they're favourites to get a winner the more football is played. Speranza for Antonio. And now Chalakian. Oh, it's found its way to Pelicanos! Is that the goal to send Rockdale to the grand final? Their supporters certainly think so. Now, Craig Fisher blowing the whistle. I don't think this is going to be disallowed. They are right in there with the supporters. What a moment. They had to dig deep, Rockdale. They had to come from behind. And it's a couple of the substitutes, Urashevsky and by Antonio, who's really grown into the final stages of this game. To another of those, Dean Pelicanos. Not a regular goal scorer, just his third of the league season, but when the chance presented itself, he was unerring with his finish. Last roll of the dice for Zelko Kalatz. On comes Liam McGing. One of the many subplots of today's game. Replacing Dejan Bakadanakoski. No, I haven't got that one right. Bailey Rule is the man who's been taken off, and McGing's first action is to clatter through the back of Urashevsky, which doesn't make Brendan Chalakian and all the Rockdale fans too happy. Sydney United were so close to pulling off another upset. Now they're going to have to almost find a miracle here. They've left it late again, Rockdale. They've had a habit of doing that over the course of the season. They've picked up some big wins late on. The biggest yet coming in the preliminary final. And as it stands, they're headed to Combank. 5 minutes to be added on. The free kick has gone Rockdale's way, and now there really is a coming together. Adrian Vlastelica has left something in, I think, on Urashevsky there. And all the players come together. Game that had really been played in fine spirits has had its flashpoint. And there's a decision to make here for Craig Fisher. A moment of frustration from Adrian Vlastelica. It's Chalakian who he came together with. Chalakian had only moments earlier turned to protest the challenge of Liam McGing around the halfway mark. Matt Harris has come all the way across from his assistant position. He would have had a view of that. Speaking with Craig Fisher. And Fisher is walking towards Antonio, who has been sent off. The red card goes Rockdale's way. Well, I'm not sure what's happened there. It's obviously something after the incident that had infuriated the Rockdale players. It's their free kick, and by Antonio's afternoon is over. Is that right? No, it's Liam McGing. Liam McGing has been sent off again at the Ilinden Sports Centre. After not being on the pitch for 10 minutes. Adrian Vlastelica continuing his very firm conversation with Craig Fisher as the wind picks up almost just to add another element of madness to this final 5 or 10 minutes here. Can Sydney United write another little chapter? Not by the looks of things. Antonio gets it clear. Chalakian and Urashevsky looking to prod it in behind Vlastelica without his defensive partner now. He's going to have to play a lone hand as Sydney United try and chase the miracle. Urashevsky taking his time. This wind is almost blowing my headphones off me up here. Chalakian. Cornered by Tom Leitch and poking the ball out of play. There were 5 minutes set to be added on. It's anyone's guess as to how much longer we've got here now after all that took place. Rashuto over the top of Bakadanakoski and wins his side the free kick. To the delight of Dean Pelikanos. One last change for Rockdale. Ray Ovens being readied. Got the third of their 4 goals against the Central Coast Mariners last weekend. Product of Endeavour Sports Eye. Produced plenty of fine athletic talents down the years. His teammates with the current Sydney FC centre half Hayden Matthews there. He makes his way onto the pitch for Lachlan Constable, whose equaliser started the fight back for Rockdale. They trailed this game with 25 minutes to play. In the depths of stoppage time, they lead it 2-1 with a man advantage. A red card to Liam McGing, the place where he was suspended for his challenge on Mathieu Cordier on Sydney United's last visit. Not a venue he has fond memories of. And Rockdale Ilinden are just eating up the clock now in front of their supporters, who've had some sort of a last month. More delight than most of them I've had as Ilinden supporters over their lifetimes. That lone championship back in 1984. They're going to have another chance in 2024 by the looks of things as Craig Fisher checks his watch. Can't be long left now. Tom Leach clear. They've made 2 grand finals since then. Rockdale Ilinden, they've gone down in both of them. Ovens, full of confidence, and scores a worldie to book Rockdale's place at Combank Stadium. 40 years on, they'll have a chance to repeat the heroics of their 1984 squad. It's new and improved Rockdale Ilinden. Every substitution Paul D has made today have made the biggest of impacts. Ovens had not been on the pitch for more than a minute, and he scored one of the goals of the season to send Rockdale through. The cherry on top. As the United fans start to vacate the ground. For so long it looked like they were going to pull off another big upset. Not to be. Ovens' brilliant goal, adding to those scored by Lachlan Constable. The ball put on a plate for him by Alek Urashevsky barely 3 minutes after the Rockdale skipper had come on. He overcomes the hamstring injury to lend a hand. And then Dean Pelikanos, another one of the substitutes who got the second. Aiden Milisevic's goal in the first half for Sydney United, in addition to some wonderful goalkeeping from Oliver Kalatz. Not enough. And the first place team over the regular season beats its 6th place. And it's Rockdale Ilinden who are the first team through to the grand final at Combank Stadium next Saturday. That game kicking off at 6 p.m. Make sure you stay across our socials for all the coverage in the lead up to that one. Make sure you stick around on the Football New South Wales YouTube page for the second preliminary final coming up between Marconi and Blacktown at 5 p.m. But it is the Rockdale fans drinking it in here at the Ilinden Sports Centre. Their team coming from a goal down to win by 3 goals to 1.